It's about 10 in the morning here on Tuesday, July 23rd, 2024, and we're gonna move the sheep tomorrow morning. We moved them yesterday morning, or I should say afternoon, because I want to move them afternoon, like 1 o'clock. So the sheep are all together. We had a lamb that was across the fence here on the north side, which is where they were before, and so I gently persuaded that lamb to jump back across the fence and get back with his mama, or her mama. I think maybe it was a female. But yeah, the sheep are all together here. I kind of wanted to go over, one thing I haven't been doing with the sheep that I've been doing with the cows is going over the effects of the grazing. And so I'm going to visit this field here that they were just in until yesterday, noonish, 1 o'clock I think is when I moved them. And I wanted to point out a couple things. Number one, some of the grass isn't even grazed, right? They just completely skipped some of the grass. And sometimes they would go and take a couple bites out of the grass. That may be the bull doing that. But given the frequency of these bites, I'm pretty sure it's sheep doing it. So the sheep are grazing the grass. It is going down. Not very much. I was concerned that the sheep might actually start at the roots and just tear out the whole plant from the bottom up. But that's not what they're doing. And they obviously have favorites. Like this grass, they just utterly destroyed. And other grasses, they don't even touch, right? They're leaving the goat weed alone. So if you're thinking the sheep are going to eat the goat weed, they're not. And I'm fine with that. I'm happy to have goat weed in my field. Come August, when the heat is the highest, that goat weed's going to provide a nice little cover for the grass to help it keep growing during the hottest and driest days. In August, the humidity tends to drop, which isn't ideal for grazing, or for grass growing. I mean, grass likes humid temperatures. The warm season grasses do. So, here's some more. They pretty much graze this more or less, down to about 4 inches, 5 inches, 6 inches long. So that's good to see. But for the most part, like the Bermuda grass, I'm pretty sure they do go after the Bermuda grass. I'm in the middle of the pasture here where there's not a lot of Bermuda grass to begin with. But I'm pretty sure I've seen in other parts they do go after the Bermuda grass. And there are certain weeds that they love to go after. I'd show you the weeds they love to go after, but they're all gone. They're dead. So they just demolish them. This is actually milkweed. That's one of the weeds that they like to go after. And they have a big bulbous head, fluffy flowers, but typically they strip the leaves and the head and leave nothing behind but a little stalk. Which is exactly what those weeds don't like. The weeds would prefer. Oh, here's some milkweed they barely touched. So there's 1, 2 milkweeds that they barely touched. So the behavior of the sheep when they strip down a plant with leaves, it's pretty much a death spell. It's the plant's going to die. It really can't recover from that. So, which I guess is sad in a way, but it's good in a way because they're going after the weeds. And the grasses like to be chewed on. The grasses like to be eaten. It encourages all sorts of good things in the grass. If you just leave the grass and let it grow as tall as it wants, eventually it's just going to die and it's not going to grow back. But you need to get in there and cut that grass or get a ruminant to graze it down. And that's going to stimulate the proper kind of growth that you want to see, like the thick grass that grows out and deep instead of just up into bunches. So that's what we're getting into here in the eastern part of this row. Right now it's like 70 something degrees, maybe 80, I don't know. It feels really cool, very humid. We got a little bit of rain yesterday, not much. Just kind of enough to wet the grass. I filmed basically the beginning of the storm. It lasted about 20-30 minutes. It came and it left. I guess you call it a squall. But that's pretty much all that happened. Now, unfortunately, in this part of the pasture, I'm not seeing great evidence of manure, right? I know that the sheep do poop as they eat. So when I see them out there doing their thing on the grass, their little tails start spinning and out comes a bunch of little pellets, right? But as I get closer to the trees, they like to lay down near the trees and take a break, chew their cud. Ruminants spend a lot more time chewing their cud. There's something I wanted to ask Greg Judy. It's not an easy question to understand, and it's not going to be an easy question to answer, so I'm in no rush to get an answer to it. But it has something to do with this behavior of the animals. So actually, when I was here last, there was a bunch of manure. Now I don't see any. I just see these little patches of soft dirt. Something dug up the ground, and the manure's gone. I assume dung beetles took the manure away. I'm not seeing piles of manure like I used to. So, not like I used to, like I did yesterday and the day before. So, I probably should get a good video. I know that this is where they like to hang out, especially under this tree. So I should see, I remember seeing lots of little piles of manure here. There's a little pile of manure here, but it's like just a fraction of what used to be here. And I'm looking around and I am not seeing manure. It's all gone. It is gone. So something ate all the manure, and I am not complaining. Oh, here's some manure here. Yeah, I think it's some kind of dung beetle that's tearing up the ground and consuming the manure. So that's a good sign. That's really encouraging. Getting manure consumed like that is a good thing. So the question I had for Greg Judy is, he's doing hourly moves, okay? And I'm not questioning the wisdom of that. I know that he has way more experience with these things, and for all I know, he's just doing an experiment. But he might know something about the behavior of grass and the behavior of ruminants that I don't. Because if you were to tell me, hey, move your animals 12 times a day, I would say, when do they chew their cud? The cows spend, I think, at least half the day chewing cud. I think it's the same story for sheep, right? And that's a necessary component of their grazing habits, right? And so the cow will get up, eat a bunch of grass very quickly. They consume large amounts of grass in a very short amount of time. And then they will eat until they're full. That first stomach is full. And then they'll basically sit down or sometimes stand and then regurgitate, chew it again, or regurgitate the second or third stomach and chew it again, and then swallow it to the next stomach, right? And so I would think that if you're going to do like very intensive, labor-intensive grazing like that, that you would have to account for time for the animal to chew its cud, right? So I'm not entirely sure what the mission is of moving the cows hourly. I don't really see the wisdom in that, so I'm missing something important. And as I said, this is not an easy question to ask because it relies on some complicated information about animals and grazing and rotations. And it probably won't be an easy answer either. It's not going to be just a few words. It's probably going to be something more deep and subtle. And maybe Greg Judy's answer is, I don't know. Let's just see what happens. In which case, I want to know what happens, right? I want to know what happens a year from now, 2 years from now, after you've experimented with grazing hourly moves, right? Is that something I'm capable of doing today? The answer is probably not, okay? That's just too much attention on the pasture all day. And I do have other things I need to do, right? Also, my stamina is not that good. I probably couldn't survive 8 or 10 hours out here doing some kind of labor, even if that labor is mostly just walking around, right? I'm just not that healthy and strong yet. But I can see Greg Judy and his young interns who have more than enough energy and physical stamina and are really using Greg Judy's cows and his farm as a laboratory so they can learn and discover and try things out. I can see them doing it, but not me, okay? If they came back and said, yes, hourly moves totally changes the equation, and there's all these wonderful benefits that we did not see from twice daily moves or even 3 times daily moves. And if they could describe the exact conditions, in which case hourly moves are the ideal thing to do, then I may experiment with it myself, at least for some of the day. But as it stands, that's something that I'm really interested in. I want to know what's going on, and I don't really understand the logic behind it. So that just shows that I need to learn some more things, right? Now, something with the sheep that I've wanted to try for a long time, but I don't think it's possible, is I wanted to experiment with daily moves or twice daily moves of the sheep. Okay, and the reason why I don't think it's possible is I am convinced that the sheep cannot see the wire until it's like right in front of their face, right? And so they don't really know what the extent of their pasture is, and I think boxing them in will just inspire this fight or flight response. When they realize that there's really no place to run away from the wire, they might get stressed. Okay, unlike cows who can see the wire, and they'll graze right up to the wire without even batting an eye, right? I think sheep have a hard time seeing the wire. But I would like to experiment with daily or twice daily moves with the sheep to see if there's any benefit to it. And I think I'm almost to the point where I have enough sheep that it may make a difference, right? But as you've seen in that last row, that was 3 days on a 100-foot wide row. That would be 25 rotations in my pasture, 25 or 26, because it's 2,560 feet long, my pasture, and 1,000 feet wide. So I can do that, let's see, 200 feet a week. I can do a 12-week rotation, 3 months, and I'll be back to the beginning. And that's not even considering the back 20 that I have access to, which I don't feel comfortable putting sheep on yet. And so my point is that they're not grazing nearly dense enough to make a big difference. That so far the only real benefit I'm getting from the sheep is their eagerness to eat certain weeds, right? And when I get my sheep numbers up, then I might have the numbers where, you know, moving them daily becomes necessary. Like with the cows, if I were to do this to the cows, they would graze in some spots and completely miss other spots. And those some spots that they grazed at, they would overgraze, and the spots they missed would be undergrazed. And so I just wouldn't be getting much benefit. That's why I do the daily moves and twice daily moves, is so I get more even grazing. And that's why I'm putting up back fencing, because I think I've discovered that my cows, and the way that I do my rotations, the cows spend more time in the middle of the row than they do at the ends. And so the middle of the row gets overgrazed and the ends gets undergrazed. So I'm doing back fencing for the cows, so that they don't go back and graze in previous areas. And hopefully that'll be a more even graze. I'll get more even results. Okay, now, so one day when I get enough sheep, I'll be doing that as well, I think, out of necessity, because I don't want them to overgraze in some areas and undergraze other areas. But right now, they can't overgraze any area. They can barely graze what they have, right? So with that, one more mention. I want to put together a really detailed video going over the life cycle of sheep and cows, like dates and times, and my plans for, you know, when I separate flocks and herds and when I bring them together. And so I've been thinking deeply about like how to organize that and present it in a way that I think will be very accessible to anyone, especially people who've never done sheep or animals before and who don't really have a clue about the whole process, right? And especially one of the issues that if you're new to this, you're going to run into is you don't know what you're supposed to do when, and you end up missing important days. And you end up utterly underutilizing your flock, or even harming the flock because you're not doing the right thing. So I'm going to put together a video of what I'm planning on doing, seeing as how I haven't really done it yet. And then we'll be able to track the progress throughout the year and see how I'm doing and what effect it has. So guys, that's all I have for you. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.